We're now going to speak to another one of our amazing community heroes. Now, we've searched high and low to find some really inspiring people in communities who do incredible things for other people around them. These could be from simple basic jobs or to something which is just unbelievably incredible that you've never heard of before. So let's see who we've got now. So welcome to the Community Heroes vlogcast. Now today we're speaking to a secondary school teacher called Kayleigh. Now Kayleigh's obviously worked all the way through the pandemic. She's worked in the southwest of England, which means that at the beginning of the pandemic everything was quite okay until towards the second half of everything, and obviously things have got worse. So we're going to pull her in now onto Zoom, going to have a little chat with her, see what's going down, see how she's been coping through the pandemic, and just hopefully get a little bit of an insight so we know kind of what they're going through as well. So let's pull her in. Hello Kayleigh, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm good. Okay, so before you tell everyone who you are and what you're doing, I just want to break the ice with a cooking related question because I'm a cook, I think. I want to break the ice by asking you what the strangest thing ever is that you've eaten. Just
That's hard.
Strangest thing.
I'm the least fussy eater, I think you will probably find ever.
Yeah.
So I think I've probably eaten, a whole heap of things. I think probably the thing that people find strangest about what I eat is the use of my condiments. So it's not the actual food, but I will put tomato ketchup on cottage pie.
Wow.
To the point where I won't eat it without it, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why, because I love cottage pie, but it's covered in ketchup. It has to be covered in ketchup. Mint sauce, most people just have it with lamb, don't they?
Yeah.
I'll put it on anything.
Really?
Yeah, anything and everything. Like sausages, if I'm eating sausages, I cut them open and I put vinegar in them.
What?
Yeah. Just condiments are my weird thing, I guess, the strangest thing. Which isn't strange by itself. I think it's just the way that I abuse them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just on everything. Mayonnaise on the roast dinner, mayonnaise with curry.
This is crazy.
I've had kangaroo, I've had pheasant.
Oh,
That's
nice.
Pretty strange, but
I've never had any of that.
I like condiments.
Well, there you go then. That's that. Okay, so tell us who you are and what you do and where you do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Kayleigh. I am a secondary school teacher. I'm a head of English, and I've been teaching this is my 10th year now. I relocated, so I moved to Devon. So I'm not actually from here, I'm from Somerset originally, and a job came up in Devon, and I thought that's for me. Another coastal town, never wanted to leave the sea. So I've worked in 2 different schools in Devon, and I've worked my way up, and I've been head of English for the last 2 years now. So
it's 11 to 18-year-olds, isn't it? That's such a hard... I mean, if I was going to be a teacher, I would know that it's 100% not going to be that age group that I'd be teaching, because that's like...
I was the opposite. So when I went into training, I was umming and ahhing about I think I might want to do primary.
Yeah.
But no. Definitely
I
not.
suppose
I much prefer the teenagers.
Well, they can actually listen to you and understand what you're trying to say, and you haven't got to talk to children sort of thing, have you?
I think for me as well was the fact that primary age you are expected to have kind of a breadth of knowledge across all subjects. And whilst, my general knowledge is okay, actually I feel like I have more of a passion in English drama.
Yeah.
And, and actually having to teach geography lessons and maths lessons and etc. That wasn't for me.
Yeah.
That wasn't for me.
So this is I
like the specialist element.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And you're a mum as well, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
Beautiful little 3-year-old who is, she's crazy.
Well,
absolutely crazy.
So to paint a picture of you, you're a head of English teacher, you've come down from Somerset and you've found your feet down here, and you've worked your way up the ladder and you're parenting really well, and just a regular person with a cool little career going on. That's really good.
Very regular.
Yeah.
Very regular.
No, that's really cool. So before you grew up and became a teacher, what did little Kayleigh want to be when she was a little princess?
Little Kayleigh wanted to be a clown.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think like a conventional clown with one of those, big nose and squirty flowers.
Okay.
I think I've just always enjoyed entertaining.
And that's where the drama, like you just said, the drama stuff comes in.
Yeah, so there's still an element of that now.
Yeah.
And then a long while after that, I wanted to be an actress. So that was an ambition for a little while. And I think I just realised it's quite a hard career to get into. So, yeah, I decided not to. But I think that's where that stemmed from.
Yeah, because it's still like with obviously with English, you're looking at like books, and some of them are fiction, some of them are like just completely made up stuff, which is almost like a play in your head.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, so you're still like kind of gone with that.
And I think as well, as much as teaching is real, you get up and you put on the performance every single lesson.
Yeah.
You get up and you are entertaining the pupils and you are teaching them.
Keeping them engaged.
Yeah, and that's it. And even though I am me in the classroom, me as a teacher is ever so slightly different to me as a mum and me as a person.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit like you get up and put on a show. So I think, me wanting to be a clown, and I literally did want to be a clown. I checked this with mum the other day. Like, she said that was my ambition.
No way.
I'm not sure I failed at that ambition, if I'm honest. I think I am a bit of a clown. I entertain, and I get to put on that show every day, which is amazing.
Well, it's similar to me with the cooking show. Like, I am me, I'm still me, but when I put that yellow hoodie on to do the cooking show, I'm enthusiastic me. I use different words that people can relate to. So yeah, I can really relate to how you're feeling with that. So when I passed my GCSEs, or didn't, I only passed 2 GCSEs. One of them was drama, which I got a B in, and the other one was design and technology, which I got a C in. Everything else I failed. Well, D's and E's and F's and stuff like that. So like, I've always wanted to I've always loved playing up, acting up, being the comedian sort of thing, and I've never been able to fit into a role until I created this cooking show. But now I'm doing it. I can be me. I haven't got to act up or anything. I can be me because it's my show. And when you're in that classroom, you haven't got to act up or anything. It's your show. It's your stage. You can
exactly. I'm not learning lines. I'm not being somebody that I'm not. It's just a slightly different me.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's the main thrill that I get.
Yeah, yeah. So how long have you wanted to be a teacher? Well, how long have you been a teacher?
I think I graduated in 2011, so this is my 10th year. I was really lucky that I went straight into it.
Right.
And I think from my GCSEs, I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I did a very traditional pathway. I did the GCSEs, the A levels, straight to uni, straight into teaching.
Yeah.
So I've not had a year out.
So you haven't done anything else before?
I've done other jobs on the side.
Right, yeah.
Especially when I was at university. But I haven't done another profession. I haven't had another career. I've always been a teacher. I've basically not left a classroom since I was 4 years old.
Yeah, Christ.
I've always been in a classroom.
Yeah, you'd be lost if you had to go and start emptying bins or something.
I mean, enjoyment of doing something different would be good.
Yeah.
Variety is the spice of life, but this is what I've always wanted to do, and living the dream.
But teaching before the pandemic was obviously a lot different, and I guess now you can sit back and see those differences. So the special memories that you had with students before to the memories that you're going to be having now. Is there anything that happened in the past which really you can't wait to do when normal comes back?
So much. I mean, there's really little things like being able to mark work over their shoulder, give them instant feedback, facial expressions. So the way we're teaching at the moment, everything is online, and most of the pupils keep their cameras off. So I don't even get to see their faces, and facial expressions are massive, absolutely massive. They tell you a whole picture and a whole story. And I never ever thought that I would miss faces as much as I do. And in the classroom, I didn't realise how impactful that was. So you can tell who is engaged, you can tell who is struggling just by their face. And I have none of that now at all. I try and encourage them to turn their cameras on. I try and encourage them to, give me a couple of minutes where I can see show me your face, see what's going on, and yeah, we don't have that. I think that's massive for me.
That's such a shame. I didn't think about that. And it's like I wouldn't turn my camera on because I don't want my teachers to see me. I don't want everyone else to see my face.
But it's odd, isn't it? Because they would see your face every day in the classroom.
Yeah, that's mad.
It's so we've got quite strict rules where if you're doing an online lesson, you need to be dressed for the day, you need to be out of your bed, you need to be sat in a public area in your house, etc.
Yeah.
And even with those things in place, the amount of them that don't want to show their face, and that's the bit that I'm finding the most difficult. I think I took that entirely for granted. I don't think I realised how much I used people's facial expressions to guide me through my teaching.
Yeah.
You would just get that vacant look sometimes where you're like, right, I need to explain that again.
Yeah.
Or just the smile, when they walk into the classroom and that, you exchange that smile, and you don't need words, but you just know that they're okay, or that they're happy to be in your lesson, or they've had a good day. And yeah, I mean, there's more obvious things like contact, high-fiving them if they get an answer right.
Yeah.
Even, brushing past people in the corridor and having a chat in the corridor.
Yeah.
That's obviously gone. That's not happening. But yeah, I think for me, it would be facial expressions and seeing people's faces.
So one of the things I've always wondered, like not necessarily through a pandemic or anything, but just forever, is how much time behind closed doors do you spend planning and marking, like, the work?
I think it's impossible to quantify. I think, the teacher's working day is from 8:30 till 3:30 generally.
Yeah.
So that is the time we are in front of pupils and we are expected to be in that school building. I've changed. I've got to admit I have changed. So over the last 10 years, with the relationship with a child, with a change in role, the amount of hours that I spend is different. So actually what I say isn't the same as everybody.
Yeah.
But there are hours in the evening where I will be replying to emails or I will be marking work. Weekends, I tend to put aside a couple of hours at least to do a little bit of prep for the next week.
Yeah.
I've got to say, my team are incredible and we massively have worked on workload and people's well-being, particularly during the pandemic, but actually the last few years. So we are in a position where most of our schemes of work exist.
Yeah.
Most of our lessons exist. So you are not coming home and preparing a lesson from scratch.
Yeah.
But you are coming home and just making sure that you are ready for the next day.
Yeah.
You're checking the resources are there.
Yeah.
You might adapt a resource quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you are never done. I think that's the thing I need to get my head around the most, is you are never finished in teaching. So I could be still marking work, or I could be, because you don't mark every single piece of work that they do, every page in their book. I could be making that lesson even better. I could be adding an extra handout.
Yeah.
So you really have to set yourself limits.
I think
the working day for some people goes on till really late at night. I've refined that. I think having a child has grounded me.
Of course, yeah.
And I've had to change my hours. So quite often, I get home probably 5:30 most days. We have a couple of hours together then, as we should as a family. And it's the cooking time, the bath time, the bedtime. And then I may get the laptop back out.
Yeah. See, I can relate to it with what I do. Like, obviously, if I'm going to go and do a cooking show, I've got to make sure I've got the ingredients. I've got to make sure that I know how to do the actual recipe. So I've got to practice the recipe probably 2 or 3 times. Make sure that my kids like it before I go and show it to other kids. So I've got to have, if I'm making a recipe from scratch, I've got to make sure that I do the condiments right and I get all the seasoning right and I get everything right before I go and do that 15-minute show. So it's for me, there's days of prep. And then a 15-minute, 20-minute video, and then 3-4 hours of editing, so it's what I do is very long-winded.
When you put the prep work in, and I spent an awful lot more time than I do now, and maybe outside of work hours when I was in my early career. One, because of confidence.
Yeah.
One, because of lack of experience and trying to recreate the wheel and come up with these new ideas. And I didn't have anything tying me down. I didn't have a 3-year-old that was crying for bedtime and food. So actually I would spend hours and hours and hours. I also think I utilise my time better in work as well now. Yeah. And I think I'm quite happy to sit and eat my lunch on the go whilst I'm working, because I know that's half an hour less that I have to do in the evening.
Yes.
But I think for me, the huge thing is having a team around you, or having a school, and I'm lucky that I've got both of those things, where workload is spread amongst you. You're all experts, so each take responsibility for sorting something different out. It doesn't mean you never have to do anything, but it means that you're not creating the wheel every day.
Do the teachers have more work than the head of English? So like, is it all pretty?
Everything is spread. Particularly, like I said, during the pandemic, we've made sure that we are all spreading the workload, so we're each responsible for a different year group's learning. We all then have to deliver it ourselves, but if we're all just sat at home doing the same thing, or all sat in the classroom doing the same thing, that's a waste of everybody's time. And actually, what we're doing now, the teaching is only one very small part of it. During this pandemic, there's a whole heap of other things that we are doing. So I think actually, spreading that load is really important. I mean, we are lucky. People talk about teachers getting 12 weeks off a year and weekends off, and we do have 12 weeks off a year. I don't think there's many teachers that wouldn't be at least doing a little bit of work in that time, though.
Yeah, of course.
But that's one of the things, isn't it, that they talk about the 12 weeks off, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I don't know about primary schools. In secondary schools, we have inset days. So we have a few of those a year, and part of that is our compulsory training. So the safeguarding every year, the child protection, any updates in any legislation that we need to know about, but also training as a teacher. So you constantly want to be getting better. And even though I've been teaching for 10 years, so that should mean I'm quite experienced, things are changing all the time. So actually training as a teacher, making sure that you are at the top of your game, that needs to happen as well. And unfortunately, those courses tend to take place on days that you're working. So what then happens is you get cover for a day, you have to set cover lessons.
Oh, Christ.
You either travel somewhere, well, that was a luxury when we used to be able to. You would travel somewhere and have a day of training, or now, you do them online. And that's really important as well, because, we have a degree, we've been doing our jobs for however long, but things are changing constantly. And the education climate at the moment looks very different to how it did 10 years ago. The GCSEs keep changing, the texts that we're teaching keep changing.
Students keep changing as well.
Exactly. And what they know and what they need to know keeps changing. So I think our training is equally as important, but those things can't be done on inset days because it's very bespoke to you. And what I need is very different to what someone else in my team needs. So you find those opportunities where you can throughout the year, and it does sometimes mean missing a day of school, so that you can go and do that. So lockdown 1 in my school was very much like that. So we were delivering one thing to people who were doing online learning, which was a majority of our pupils. We then had a handful of pupils in school who are the key worker kids, and they were then having different lessons delivered to them. This lockdown, we've changed that because it makes more sense for them to be logging onto a computer and accessing the same learning that everybody at home is doing. So that's not doubling up on workload, but you do need teachers to supervise them. So that's tricky when you might want to be delivering a lesson, but you're actually supervising a pupil. And also for those pupils in school, they're in school behind a computer screen all day. As our pupils at home. The difference is people at home can break it up a little bit. They can put their TV on, they can go to the kitchen and get a snack. They might have a sibling there or a parent there that they can talk to. These pupils in school are in the same room all day. So we've mixed it up so that after lunch, they don't do their timetabled lesson. And we use some of the teachers that are in school to give them something extracurricular. So some art, some cooking, some PE. So they've got a halfway timetable, but that is extra workload for people.
Because you've got to create lessons which weren't in existence.
But we wouldn't have it any other way. Those pupils need that stimulation. They can't sit in front of a computer all day. We're struggling as teachers to do that. People working from home are struggling to do that. So, why should we expect these students to do that as well? We're spending a lot of time emailing home, ringing home, checking that everyone's okay. We're having more meetings as a team to try and work out who's going to do what. So workload is different, really different.
So I'm going to ask a question which I just think it fits at the moment. So this is a question which could be probably quite tricky to answer. So you've been trained for the job and you get paid for it. You don't have to, well, not you, but teachers don't have to think about cleaning at home around teaching the children like parents do. At the same time, you don't have to think about cooking lunch for the kids like parents do around teaching. And you have your own cooks, teachers and TAs to help too, and parents have nothing. I mean, that's not quite a question, but that's quite a dig at teachers because they've got everything handed on a plate at school. Do you think that's fair?
Yes and no is my answer.
Okay.
I think what we are expecting, and I say we as in the UK, not we as in teachers, what we are expecting parents to do at the moment is insane, is absolutely insane. That whoever said that is right. They're not trained. Most of them are then juggling their own jobs at the same time, having to access this curriculum that they haven't done for however many years.
Yeah,
if you've got more than one child at home, have you got enough laptops? So it is absolutely insane. But equally, it's slightly unfair because there are a lot of teachers who are delivering online learning with their own children at home. So they are juggling both. So not only are they being the teacher and trying to provide that provision, which is difficult because we're working in a very different way, they're also then trying to homeschool their own students and kids at home. And that's a lot of teachers. That's not all teachers. Not all teachers are in that situation. My little girl's too young for homeschooling as such, so she's not needing that rigorous education. But pretty much everyone else in my team, in my school, has primary school age children. So
their children are at home?
Some of them, yep. Some of them didn't get a key worker place in their school.
Wow.
Because primary schools are filling up really quickly. Yeah. So some of my team are having to do some of their online lessons while their own children are at home, and they're trying to deliver them teaching as well. So entirely fair comment that person has said. It is really tricky. And yes, this is what we are paid to do. We are paid to teach. But a lot of people are having to teach their own children as well. And then the cooking, the cleaning,
and everything on top of it. Yeah. It's the same as what parents are at home who
trying to do their job as well.
Not teaching 20 kids online.
Yeah.
So obviously, people in your team are teaching students which are 11 to 18-year-olds, and then they've got a 5-year-old at home. Yeah. And they don't know they don't teach that age.
No. So they're relying on the resources that the teacher is sending in. Yeah. But they also don't have necessarily the time to deliver that because they're delivering their own lessons. The same as parents working from home. If they've got a phone call to make, but their son or daughter needs help, or they've got a conference call, it's insane times though, isn't it? And I think we're very quick to point our fingers at other professions saying, oh, but you've got it easy. I think nobody has a clue what anybody else is going through. And I'm lucky that my daughter is not at an age where she needs homeschooling, but she does need entertaining. Yeah. And actually, I'm lucky that she's retained her place at nursery this lockdown. That was not the case lockdown 1. Yeah. So lockdown 1, I was delivering all my lessons from home with a 2-year-old. Yeah. Wow. So while she didn't need home learning and home teaching, she needed entertainment and potty training. And it's difficult for everybody, and I fully agree with that statement that you've just read out, because hats off to parents, really hats off to parents. It is a tricky time, but safety absolutely has to be priority, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And if that means that we have to struggle through and teach from home for a little bit longer, that's what we have to do.
I think that's a good comment, to be fair, because obviously it's hard. It is hard for parents, but it must be hard for teachers who are parents as well.
I also think it's hard for students. I think they are probably the people that are struggling the most.
But I think particularly secondary, they've had the GCSEs kind of whipped from under them and then told that they might be doing the exam, they might not be doing the exam. Yeah. That's really hard.
And have you got to choose the GCSE grades? Is that
we're still waiting to find out.
Wow.
So that's what, last year it was centre assessed grades, which meant that you used all the evidence you had over the 2 years that they do their GCSE, and you put forward a grade as a school. This year we've been told they won't do their GCSEs as planned, but we are still awaiting what that means.
Yeah.
So we think there will be an element of teacher giving a bit of a grade, and that has its own difficulties.
Yeah, that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, I think there's the people as well that pull it out of the bag last minute.
Yeah.
That do really well under pressure, and if you take that exam element away from them, they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And they are the sort of people that I really felt for last year, because if we didn't have evidence for them over the last 2 years, I couldn't give them that grade.
That you knew they were worthy of.
But they could have been the sort of person that give them that exam paper in 2 hours. They could have done it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the people that this system is really difficult for. You know, if you've had your head down and you've worked as hard as you can over the last couple of years, you're going to do all right. This system will allow for that.
Yeah.
And I don't see how we could do it any other way. I honestly don't. They are consulting the exam boards at the moment, so we don't know what their GCSEs will look like. We just know that it won't be the same as what it would have been 2 years ago. I think my other thing as well is this not a time to reassess GCSEs? Is this not a time to maybe do something radical in education?
Yeah, completely flip it on its head.
It's really difficult as a teacher, because obviously you are there to get them a grade. That is your job. And I would never want to sit back and say to somebody, you'll be fine without it.
Yeah, of course.
Because you don't know that. It gives them security. It gives them potentially more pathways.
Yes, absolutely.
But equally, you know, such as yourself, you've just said you've got somewhere that you want to get without that.
But I wanted to be, my dream job as a paramedic. And I didn't have the qualifications to go to college. So I would have had to do a pre-access course, and then an access course, and then the course. So you're looking at like 6 years, 7 years or something. And I'm like, when I was younger, I was like, I haven't got that much time. You know, I want to get on something, I want to jump on something, I want to have money, I want to buy cars, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
You know, and so
that's exactly it. And we talk about it giving them more opportunities.
Yeah. And
it
quicker.
Doesn't necessarily mean that you will need them, because there are many jobs out there, valuable jobs, important jobs that I would encourage people to go and go and get, that don't require them.
Yeah.
But equally, like you said, actually that would have added on so much more to that career. It didn't seem possible to you at the time. You know, and I think you've been in education for 11 years, maybe 13 years. Let's get a qualification from it. Let's make the most of it. And then you've got the whole world at your feet, haven't you? You can then choose what you want to do.
So obviously we're all worried about picking up the virus and passing it to the people we love at home. So how do you deal with the fear of possibly being a carrier for the virus and bringing it back?
It's really hard, isn't it? The good thing about schools at the moment is there is minimal pupils in, so minimal, mixing of people. I think you've just got to be rational. You can't put your life on hold, but you've got to be as sensible as you can. Secondary schools have got lateral flow testing at the moment, so we are able to be tested up to twice a week, which is fairly accurate at assessing if you are contagious with coronavirus or not. If your test comes back positive, and you get the result within 30 minutes as well.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's different to the other tests that are done.
Yeah, for the public, yeah.
So they are carried out in school. You do it yourself. I think it gets test tubed. I don't know the science behind it, but someone puts something in a test tube and it changes colour.
Yeah.
So this is what the government have implemented to try and make schools, more safe to come back into. So at the moment, because it is just mainly staffing, we are doing that for staff. So I've been tested weekly since I've been back in school. If it comes back negative, it is very likely that you are negative.
Yes.
It can't be 100%, but it's very likely. If it comes back positive, it is very likely that you are positive. You then need to go and isolate, because we're mixing with hundreds of people a day in a secondary school. And whilst they are much better at keeping their distance than primary school and nursery, we see more a day.
Yeah.
I have 5 classes a day, each of 30 students from different year groups, different households.
If the families only see one other family, and that's the only family for their social bubble or whatever, and that they're the only family that they've been seeing, then it is just one vast bubble if everyone is looking after themselves. But
I think that's the important thing, isn't it? they are looking after themselves. We can control what happens in school to an extent, but yeah, actually it's the trust that outside of school they're not then abusing those boundaries, so that everything we do to keep everyone as safe as possible is then pointless. I don't think there's a job out there who wouldn't be worried that it's not safe or it is safe. I think we're all, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter if you work in a supermarket, it doesn't matter if you are a bus driver, we're all coming into contact with people. And I think you just absolutely have to stick to, you know, the safest things that you can do. I think schools have done an incredible job of making them as safe as possible.
So I remember the first case in a school down in Paddington. Well, it was just down the road. I think it was like some college towards Brixham or something.
Hurston was the first one.
Was it? And there was and everyone absolutely bricked themselves and was just like, shut the window, shut the doors, shut the curtains. We are shit scared. And then now it's like almost somebody in every family has had it, and we're not scared.
We don't want children to be scared.
No, absolutely.
I think that's the important thing. We want it to be as normal for them as possible, but we can't lose sight of what's going on. And I remember the first lockdown, that daily bulletin from 10 Downing Street, where every day I would turn on at 5 and I could see how many people have got it that day, death toll, and what are they doing. And we don't have that regular contact anymore. And actually, there's a part of me which is really glad because the media is ruining me and other people. But equally, does that mean that we are becoming a little bit more complacent in our day-to-day lives, and I use we as a very loose term, but are we then being less safe? Are we... I remember in the first lockdown, I would cross the road every time someone came near me when I was going on my daily walk. I was timing myself with how long I was out the house. I was crossing the road if someone was even near me. And that's not happening quite as much anymore. And you're right, why isn't it? When there's more strains of this virus. There's some great positives. The vaccination is being rolled out. It seems to be being rolled out fairly quickly, hopefully fairly successfully. But it's still there.
How do you try, or can you? Is there any way of bonding with the parents?
It's really tricky, and I think that's the bit that we are struggling with the most. Obvious things like if they're not engaging at all with the learning, we are ringing home or we are sending emails. That's not because we're worried about them not doing the work in the first instance. It's, are they okay? You know, if I've got a student that is coming to my live lessons but isn't doing the work, that's very different because at least I've had some interaction with them. But if I've not seen them, if they've not messaged me, that interaction with that parent is crucial. And you know, the responses from parents are really mixed because some of them, like we said earlier, are juggling a whole heap of things as well. Parents' evenings are still going ahead, so I've got one tomorrow. I did one last week, and we're doing them all via a program like this, where it's, you know, it's with a camera on, etc.
I think this is okay to do parents' evening. Like I think this could stick. Like,
and that is the thing. We've started to talk about as staff. How would we feel if this became the new normal? Positives and negatives. You know, there are some negatives that some of our households don't have laptops or don't have very good internet, so they would be missing out on that. But that's really important. But the big thing for me is that you've just got to try and stay in contact in whatever way possible. We are rewarding pupils more than we ever have, so we're sending physical postcards home, we're sending emails of commendation, letters of commendation, but keeping in contact with those parents is tricky. We've got a really dedicated team in our school who are the welfare team, who deal with that daily anyway. That's part of their job. But they're doing home visits where possible.
Oh, nice.
They need to just to check on people,
knock on the door,
offer them support, offer them laptops, offer them food.
So I was gonna say that like email, like you could just pump out an email every day, but then that's more time for you, and I don't even check my emails. But
that's the thing, isn't it? If we're all doing it, there will be hundreds of emails sat in an inbox. Yeah,
I've got 1,004 unread emails, so it's like I just wouldn't bother, and it would be like, hi.
And that's exactly it. It's much quicker for a teacher to send an email to say, so and so hasn't logged on today, is everything okay, can I support you? That takes me a minute. And equally, if I've got a few students in the same class, I could send that same email to all of them. But I know full well that absolutely we are in a world of of internet and social media at the moment, and probably checking your emails is the last thing that you want to be doing. We're spending so much time on our screens that I don't want to be encouraging more. So, you know, we were sending emails of congratulations to students that were doing well. We've moved away from that slightly, and we're now trying to send out physical things in the post.
Yes.
Really old school, really old school, but that can go up on the fridge, or
it's something,
everything at the moment is on a screen, and it's tricky. You know, it is really, really tricky. Obviously, education is vital. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But I almost think that's become the second part during this lockdown, and I think absolutely most of our priority is well-being, welfare, checking that people are okay. And what that looks like for a whole heap of different people. You know, we've got over 1,000 people in our school.
God, it's mad, isn't it?
But it's different for every single one of them, and those that do well when they're in school might be struggling to be at home, and there might be people that we've been checking in on for years and years, and how do we do that when we can't physically see them? So obviously the teaching of the lessons and the delivery of the education is really vital, but I think actually the welfare and the well-being of students and parents it's paramount at the moment.
So to stand on this, so obviously there's support out there for parents, there's support out there for pupils, there's support out there for families. What about you guys? Have you got what you need? Like, do you have support? Obviously you've got a union which tells you that you shouldn't be at school. Like, do you have your own sort of, I mean, I guess for you that might be useful, that might be not useful. You've got a union that if you disagree with what union's saying, then you've got a support system which you don't agree with, so then you've got no support network. So do you have like an in-house sort of union, like amongst your teachers?
Yeah, there's a staff wellbeing. There's a couple of members of staff who are dedicated to that all the time, not just when we're in a pandemic. Unions used to be the port of call. They used to be where you would go if there was a problem, and actually the government, they are just not fully listening to what they are suggesting. So the union said even back in September we shouldn't be opening. That didn't happen. They said that we shouldn't be going back till we're vaccinated. I don't know if that's going to happen. So the unions still have a really important place, but maybe they are not getting the results that we thought they might do. For me, the support network is entirely the people you work with. It doesn't matter what their position is. My team are incredibly close. I think it helps that most of us have children. So we all understand each other's background, but we are the support network for each other. The leadership team are phenomenal. They are, you know, taking as much on as possible that they can to support us in and out of school. We are being encouraged to work from home where possible. But that caveat has to be there, because a lot of what we do in teaching, you need the resources you've got at school. We have a team meeting weekly, and whilst lots of people aren't in school, we're still running them, but we're doing them on Zoom or we're doing them on Google Meet, just so that we can check in with each other. And quite often, actually, those meetings are only half about school now, and they're half about us. How are you?
What you've been doing?
What can I do?
On?
Are you having a bad week? Do you want me to do that for you this week? Is there somebody else that could help you? So there is support. I won't speak very negatively about anything at the moment, because I think we've got a job to do. We're doing it, but the bit that I really struggle with, and I've been very open about this with anybody that will speak to me, is I can go into school and be around the 12 people in my team. Obviously we distance, but I can be around them, and between September and December I could be teaching 150 kids a day that are only a metre away from me, and yet I can't go and see my mum. My brother had a baby this week. I have no clue when I'm going to be able to meet her. Yet I can be around all these people in my classroom.
I think so many people
my
are
little
annoyed
girl can
about
go
that.
to nursery because I'm a key worker, so she can go to nursery. And obviously there is zero social distance in there.
Nothing.
As there should be. You know, she should be able to be picked up and cuddled and whatever, but she can do that with them, but she can't go see nanny.
And I bet
that's
and
the
that
one bit that I find tricky.
And that teacher as well can pick up your daughter, but then she can't go and see her niece or nephew.
That is the one bit that I struggle to get my head around. I understand that we are limiting bubble, and we are trying to limit the transmission and all of that, but that's the one bit that I find the hardest to get my head around, because yes, I don't have students in my classroom at the moment, but before Christmas, which was only a month ago, I did have, and I had 150 a day sometimes. And whilst we are keeping our distance where possible, I'm still in a small room. Windows are open for ventilation.
Yeah.
They're sanitising their hands on the way in and the way out, but that's it. They're in my room.
Are they going to wear masks in the classroom?
Our school is not doing that in the classroom at the moment, so they were doing it in corridors and indoor spaces, but not in the classroom. But that's been very much guided on the rates of like the R figure around here,
right,
and we have been quite lucky that ours has stayed relatively low.
Yeah.
So we did say we would monitor kind of what Devon and what other schools were doing and the government guidance. So we have had a few positive cases, as have pretty much every school. But we've never had to send the whole year group home because it's kind of confined to tutor groups or to small groups. Teachers aren't in bubbles. Our bubble is everyone in the school.
Yeah.
So
that
is the bit that I find difficult.
Like if there's a student that just likes one particular teacher, who trusts one particular teacher, and they can't have that because of being in a bubble, then that's a safeguarding issue.
Exactly. So we haven't limited that at all.
Yeah.
We haven't changed where they're taught either. I know some schools have, and I don't agree or disagree with either of the ways that you do it, but some schools the students stay in one room and the teachers travel. Our lessons would be an hour in our school, and we're trying to make the actual delivery of the lesson maybe 30 minutes, and then you send them off and you say, right, now do a 20-minute task, and then log off. Make sure you log off, go and get a drink, and then come back to your next lesson.
Yeah.
But they've got to manage their time, and if they don't do that task in 20-30 minutes, they've run into the next lesson, they're late, they don't get off their chair.
Oh, Christ, That's
really difficult, and it's things like that that people have taken for granted. In school, they don't have to do that because we tell them, you've got 5 minutes left, the bell goes, you've got 1 minute to get to your next classroom. The day is mapped out for them. And you know, what we're doing now is we're sticking to a timetable. So when my class would have English, they will have that English lesson, but I try and make my teaching maybe 30 minutes so that they can then do a little task and then have 5 minutes to breathe.
Yeah.
But they've got to manage that time, and that's really hard.
I suppose this is why parents are getting so, like, with different ages as well. Like, you might have like a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And they've got like different classes to do with one computer. It's
The government have been great at providing laptops for families in need. Obviously, that won't be everybody that needs it, but they've tried to get as many out as possible. So there are things happening to try and support that. I think broadband companies and internet companies have said that they will give free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think they should.
I think you apply through the school. So there are things happening, but how big's your dining room table? If you've got 3 students all sat there with a laptop, they're going to hear each other's lessons.
Oh, Christ, they'll all need headphones.
It's a minefield, isn't it? Absolute minefield.
And then obviously the parents need to get printers for work, I guess.
We're trying to do as much of ours on a screen as possible, but if you've got somebody who's dyslexic, they need to print it out and read it.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few more questions that I want to ask you, which people have asked. So there's I've got a friend who's asked me like 6 questions. I'll go through them, but I think we've answered a lot of them. So what inspired you to become a teacher? And obviously, I don't know actually what inspired you to become a teacher, but I know why you are a teacher of the subject that you are. But what actually inspired you to be a teacher?
Do you know what? I don't think there's an answer I can give to this, which won't sound really cliche. I think there's only a couple of genuine answers that you can give, isn't there?
Yeah.
For me, it was a teacher that I had who just absolutely made me believe in myself. And again, sounding really cheesy, but made me feel like I could be something. And I think when I was going down the line and realising, what do I want to do? I wanted to be like her.
Yeah.
I wanted to be somebody that could make a difference. And that's so cliche and it's so cheesy. But that is what we're doing. We are preparing the next generation for whatever they might need. And you know what? If only one student out of my whole career remembers me, or I had a slight impact on their life, well, that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's
I was really lucky that the lady that inspired me probably doesn't know that she inspired me. In fact, maybe I should tell her, because that's a wonderful thing to hear. But I don't think she didn't do it on purpose. She was just her. She was just doing her job. But I think actually just any form of building those positive relationships, encouraging them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
It might not even be through getting them a good grade. That might not be how I inspire them or encourage them, but it might be one conversation that we have that they remember or they were having a particularly bad day and I was the person that had a lesson with them that day that made them smile, or just you are. And I've realised this now, I've got my own little girl, teachers probably see kids more than the parents do.
Yeah, definitely.
Which breaks my heart for my own little girl, but we are such a huge influence in that aspect, that we could make a difference, just being able to inspire and encourage. And children are just wonderful beings. Like, they make me laugh every single day. They always say don't work with children and animals, don't they? But I go against that. Like, always work with children. They are wonderful. They
are. Like, when I'm doing the cooking show with the kids, it is, if they're in the right mood, it's great, and it's such an amazing memory, and it's so good.
And you just watch them grow. And again, that's a cliche, but I'm lucky enough to be with them 5 years, sometimes 7 years if they stay for sixth form. And whilst I might not teach them for that whole time, I see them entirely change as a person. An 11-year-old you to a 16-year-old you is very, very different.
Okay, so there's a couple on Facebook. Okay, right. So over on Facebook, I put a post out yesterday, which can be seen on the screen now. So Bernie has asked the question: do you feel it will be okay for year 6 children to begin secondary school September, as they haven't had chance properly to get ready for it in school?
Tricky, isn't it? Arguably they're not behind, because we set those expectations, don't we, as a society. We do a lot of things on transition as well. So last year, all of our transition had to be done online because the lockdown happened a bit later on in the year. I've got to say, our year 7 students at the moment, who were year 6 last year, have settled in really, really nicely.
That's good.
And they're the first year group who haven't had SATs grades since they, came into existence. Has that impacted their learning? No. Maybe made it slightly difficult for teachers to know what grades they are working at, but as human beings, they were kind of ready. Every student's different though, and every school is different. I think as long as the primaries and the secondaries liaise with each other, and there is some form of transition programme, whether that's online so they can have a virtual tour of the school, or whether they can come up and visit and meet the teachers. I think we just need to resort our expectations, don't we? Because these guys who are in year 6 will have missed almost a whole year of education when you think about lockdown last year and lockdown this year.
And then they've just had the parents teach them.
And for some of them, they won't have had much teaching at all. Some will have had a parent who's with them every single day. So I think we just need to reassess our expectations, that's all. Okay.
Tony has asked, have you or do you feel safe going to school during the pandemic, seeing as everywhere else has to be distance and masks, etc. School is a different situation, still so close to many children from different households. So I think we've covered that in a talk. I think at the moment it's okay. We've got, like I said, I think we've got about 10% of our students in school at the moment, which is much higher than we had in lockdown 1. But it is those key worker and vulnerable students that are in. And they've got us on a rota, so not all of us are with them all the time. They're in very small groups. I feel that our school has done everything it can do. Do I feel entirely safe? No. Does any job feel entirely safe? No. I don't think we could be doing any more. So absolutely hats off to our health and safety team in our school, have followed the government guidance, and they've done absolutely everything they can do. We are such a large school site. It's really hard. I don't even know how they started to make the one-way systems. It's insane. They have done an incredible job, and there's 2 or 3 men in particular in our school that have facilitated that. They've done amazing. We haven't been sent any experts. No schools have been sent experts to do it. They've all had to do internal training. See, I thought, they'd just be. So I thought, it's a really good business idea to be the one-way company. Make some signs, and every school's taken that on themselves. I don't think we're doing much different to other schools. But you facilitate that yourself, and that's nothing to do with us, the teachers. That's other people that have done that in our school. So I think my honest answer to that question is, do I feel safe? I feel as safe as I think I can be. But I don't think anybody feels entirely safe. Okay, well, I'm all out of questions, and that's it. But I just want to say, I appreciate, and I'm sure everybody appreciates what you guys are doing for our children. Because without teachers, we would be having to do this teaching malarkey all the time, you know, and everyone would have to go through it. So I just think it's really amazing that people still want to be teachers, even though there's the talk about wages not being very good. There's the talk about teachers aren't like, the unions don't want teachers to be in school at the moment. So like, even though all of that is in place, and there's all these things about teachers are like go these holidays and all this stuff, you're still doing a fantastic job, and students are still turning into professional mechanics, doctors, you know, scientists. There's still every single child that's gone to school comes out of school. Some of them go off to do incredible things. Some of them go and start their own charities. You know, it's just incredible what teachers do. So thank you. So thank you so much for talking to me, and I hope one day we can get you, well, we can bring the double-decker bus that I'm building for the cookery school, we can bring it to the school and get some kids on there.
That would be amazing.
You know, and get them filming like YouTube shows and stuff, and get them to start getting messy, have a little food fight, knock some stuff up, bring the parents in, they can cook food for the parents. So I think it would be really, really cool if we could do that after when lockdown's finished.
That's amazing, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for the chance to talk today.
No, it's cool. Yeah, so thank you and goodbye.
I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye. So we go. Really inspiring talk that was. There's a few bits in there that I didn't really think. Like, I can't believe that there's teachers at home, homeschooling, cooking, cleaning, all of the stuff that parents are doing, and then teaching those other kids of the parents who are moaning. Hats off to you teachers. Love you. Community heroes through and through. See you later, guys.